friends, how about it? Look at all your faces. Wow, it's great to be back together. Really enjoy today. If you don't know yet, you will now. We have a group of students from Southeastern Oklahoma State University here. Woo! Go Storm, right? That these students are probably trying to network, looking for internship opportunities, maybe some entry level. So if you're looking as well, stop by, make sure you meet them, make sure you network with them. Okay? All right, cool. So I would first like to introduce myself. I'm Sean Blakemore. I am a safety manager with McCarthy Building Companies. I want to say to everybody that I'm glad to be here. It's an honor to get to sit up here with a group of folks, this field leadership. So I hope you guys enjoyed this panel. We got some really good questions, and then we'll get going. Okay. So part of this panel, the focus of it, with everybody's focus around genuine safety culture and health culture, it made sense that the goal of this was to bring in 4 top industry leaders to talk to them about the relationship between safety professionals and operations. Right? I know that's a big hot topic and how you build that relationship and build that culture. So hope we have some really good outcomes. So sit back, breathe. We'll get to lunch, I promise. Relax, and let me introduce our panelists, okay? Sorry, I got it. So first up, Chris Arpaia with McCarthy Building Companies. Chris, Senior Superintendent, 42 years in the construction industry. 15 of those have been blessed with McCarthy, so hey. Chris, icebreaker question for you, good question here. In your career, so with McCarthy or not, in your career, what was your staple project? What are you most proud of? What project?
Probably would be the Southwest Airlines project.
Yeah, I would say Southwest too. Oh, that's a good job. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for being here. Next up, Pete Lopez. Pete Lopez. How you doing? You're here. General Superintendent with Dynamic Glass. 20 years in the industry. Pete, icebreaker question for you. What was your first job?
I was a roofer.
You were a roofer? Thanks, Pete. Thanks for being here. Lee Thomas. Kate McShane. Senior Project Manager. 22 years in the industry. Lee, icebreaker question for you. First off, how tall are you?
6'4".
6'4". Pete, I'm sure you get this a lot, but how actually is the weather up there?
It's present. It's the same.
I would not know. I would never know. Thanks. Thank you for being here. And last up, we got Aaron Henson with Walker Engineering. Aaron, how are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Aaron, Director of Field Operations, 27 years in the industry. Aaron, icebreaker question for you. Have you seen any good movies lately that you recommend?
No, not really a movie person.
Not a movie person? Okay, all right. Aaron, thanks for being here. Okay, so I'm not sure if there's any mathematicians in this room. Maybe some of the students. I'm not sure if you've done it on your test, but I wrote it down. We got over 110 years of field level operation experience sitting up on the stage. That's going to give us some really good answers and good advice today. So, round of applause real quick for these folks. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. All right, first question that we have. Sorry. Chris, can you define accountability?
As to who's accountable for safety on the project.
That's right.
So the easy answer is everybody, but I would say to anybody in this room, in 1976, when I walked on my first construction project, they looked at me and they said, okay, we're driving pile on the barge. You gotta get out to the barge. There's a 90-foot pile with a 10-inch flange that goes out to the barge. You walk the pile to get out to the barge. And when you got out to the barge and you had to get up the leads, you just climbed the leads. Nobody had a vest on. Nobody had gloves for you. You didn't wear hard hats. So who was accountable? Nobody. So when I look at what's happened in the industry, it's amazing to come onto a project. Every project engineer, every field engineer, every foreman, everybody has some kind of safety part of their day. Actually, it should be all the time, but it's truly amazing when you look at what's happened in the industry in the last 10 years especially.
Thank you. Aaron, anything you would add to that response?
Well, it's kind of like Chris was saying, when you first walked on the job, the guys that were running the job, those were the ones that were somewhat held accountable. But now we look at everybody in the field, from project management through safety, down to the lowest guy that's out there that just graduated high school. We hold them just as accountable as we do everybody that's out there. It's his responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility to hold safety.
Okay, Lee. Are issues that you experience on your projects predictable, would you say?
There's always indicators that something can or will happen, and we do our best to try to rectify those and address those quickly, because you don't want something to happen. However, you can't cure stupidity sometimes. People just do dumb things. And they get hurt, and you turn around and you're like, why did you walk past the caution tape? Why did you go do that? Why did you stand underneath the bucket of a loader? Sometimes people just do stupid things. And can you forecast that? No, you can't. But with safety reports and indicators and making sure that scaffold is inspected on a regular basis and making sure they're doing the inspection correctly, yes, you can cure some of it.
Wow, thanks. Thank you. That was awesome. Pete, let me ask you a question. What would you say the biggest obstacle that you see in safety and production relationship?
Biggest obstacle I see. I see the big obstacle is that you see safety. In the other part of production, they see production of what they want the building to be done. So safety does not have what's going on. Hey, we need to have to do this, do that, or the project. So I guess once we get to better communication between us, we'll be able to get through any obstacle, because you'll be able to know where we're at and not stack anybody on top of each other. So I think the biggest obstacle would be is just making sure we communicate a whole lot better to be able to, to tackle the task and job like we do.
Great, thank you. Chris, would you add anything to that as far as safety and operations? We don't even have to say production, safety and production relationship, biggest obstacle.
I guess just being an old guy, they use me a lot to write schedule and determine production. One of the things I've seen happen, especially in the last 5 years, that I think is great, is the advent or the use of work plans, where we actually sit down with the foreman and the teams that are going to do the tasks in the field and write down detailed work plans, so that everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing in the field. That makes your task hazard analysis and preparation in the morning a lot more clear for everybody, because they have a work plan to reference. It also makes us take very realistic approaches or looks at how we write schedule and what we base production on, because we understand things aren't always going to go right the way we want it, especially when you're dealing with people and estimating there's money involved. Obviously, you want it perfect, but it's not going to be. But I love the work plans. I did not like them at all when I first saw them. I was like, holy shit, who wants to do all this work? But I have to admit now, as I see the teams and the preparation and what people do, not only does it make the job site incredibly safe, but I think the work, the quality, everything about what we do is a lot better. So, and I think you people had a big part in that, so that's a good thing.
Shout out.
Aaron, in your role, and this is a good question, because as a subcontractor, operation leader, this can go either on a subcontract or it can go on the GC. But in your role, what is an ideal safety professional, right? What is an ideal safety professional? What is the number one thing that you want out of your safety professional?
So to me, an ideal safety professional is somebody that ingrains with what we do out there in the field. We don't want somebody that goes around policing PPE, safety glasses, things like that. I myself want somebody ingrained in what are the real hazards that are out there, what's going to get. How can we partner up with other subcontractors, partner up with general contractors? Let's get these items fixed and addressed immediately before somebody tragically gets hurt, and then we've got a whole different situation in our hands.
Awesome, thank you. Lee, I want to ask you, as a GC, I want to ask you the same question and see how, make sure those relate. What would be your number one thing you want to see in a safety professional?
Somebody who helps. One of the best safety guys we ever had, that I've ever had the pleasure to work with, I was doing a job in North Carolina. I was new to the area, was called to this job, and running up and down, and this guy just showed up out of nowhere. He's like, hey, you got a second? You got a second? I'm like, no, I don't. He goes, hey, I got a question. And I said, what's your question? He goes, you got some safety rails that are not right. And I went, okay, we'll fix it. And he looks at me, he goes, okay, you got a hammer? And I said, okay, yeah, here, hold on. Man, snatched a hammer up from one carpenter's and handed it to the guy. The guy took it off. A couple hours later, I saw him on the third floor. He was pulling safety rails off and redoing safety rails. And that was on a Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, he showed back up with his own hammer this time and commenced doing safety rails. It wasn't until Saturday afternoon when he came down. He goes, I think I got all the safety rails done in front of all the openings. This is an apartment complex. He goes, I think I got everything done. I said, all right, man. I said, who are you? He goes, I'm a safety guy for the company. I went, oh. Well, everybody was sitting on site, all the subcontractors saw him on site, and they saw him working. So then, he was just one of them. So when he came back and, hey, can you do this? They were more than happy to do what he said, because he had helped. They had seen him there. So it's somebody who helps, not just with production, but helps with teaching people why, teaching people why not, and being a part of that team is just somebody who helps.
Like building that respect and then able to operate more off of that.
Oh, absolutely. The more respect they have for the guys in the field, and not, like you said, not a policing, oh crap, here he comes, find your hard hat or head to the truck, 102. But no, somebody who has that respect and can work with them.
I think we hit the answer, but I want to ask the next question because it kind of goes hand in hand. And I'm going to ask it to Chris, okay? Because I'm a safety pro for Chris. Chris, what do safety professionals do that drive you crazy? What do they do that you don't like? Take notes.
You can't say exist.
So again, there were no safety professionals in 1976, and I'll never forget when I met my first one. His name was Milt Tedford. He came from OSHA, and I worked for a company called Nickerson in Connecticut, and we built water and wastewater treatment plants, and literally, I mean, we did everything ourselves, 100% self-performed, so we had 30-foot high Simon's panel forms, you know, single plank all the way up the side, no handrails anywhere, you name it, it was going on. That's the way we worked. And Milt showed up, and it was gonna change. And boy, you want to talk about hate. You couldn't even, and I had Harvard performer, had been with the company 25 years, going, you gotta get this effing guy off the site, we're not doing this. And that's love-hate, man. It doesn't get any better. And the first 5-10 years, I want to say, were terrible. Milt didn't last very long. They had to find safety guys like every 2 years because they were just like, this is a shit show. We can't go through this, right? And none of us liked you guys. I'm going to be really honest. We didn't want to do what we didn't want to do it. But obviously things changed, huh? I mean, so when you look out there now and you see the safety guy and you say, boy, what do they do that I don't like? I think that's a little unfair because I think you could say that with any peer you work with on the job site, right? Everybody rubs you one way or the other. But we'd all be blind not to say that safety is as important or the most important thing right on the job site every day, and that the safety guy has actually become ingrained in everything we do. And I don't know that I look at it that way anymore. You asked me 10, 12 years ago, I would have said, yeah, Jesus, that guy? Don't want him. But I'll tell you a story. Maybe I'm talking too much, but I was with McCarthy just a few years, and there was a job called Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they had a young safety guy do a presentation on a Saturday for a rigging crane class. And I remember everybody walked out of that class, and for the very first time I heard a safety guy that was pretty amazing. He did a fantastic presentation, and I remember we talked about it a lot. Superintendents went for a beer, and they were like, shit, that guy's pretty sharp. And it made us all think, right? Because you're an older superintendent, and you're kind of putting up with this safety stuff. And he was a little thinner back then, but that guy was Matt Clark. And I never told Matt that because, oh my God, I don't want to tell him that. It was a big moment because we were all still cutting corners back then, right? That was 13 years ago, I bet. We were still cutting corners. We still weren't doing it right. But when you hear somebody talk and you say to yourself, Jesus, that guy probably knows this stuff better than me, right? That was the first time for a bunch of us we connected the dots, and everybody was like very impressed. So Matt, kudos to you.
Appreciate that.
And that's what we're looking for, right?
Thank you. Pete, I want to ask you a question, kind of like, we're still staying on the topic of safety pros, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there is a lot of safety pros here. So I want to stay on that topic. Pete, let me ask you a question. This can be present or past, right? So what is or was the largest challenge with building a relationship with maybe a safety professional, whether it's with your company or with the GC that you're working for? And what steps do or did you take to kind of overcome that challenge?
It was the same way like back then. Back then, it was a hard relationship to build with the safety guys. We always thought they were coming in, trying to get the guys on the job or get rid of them somehow, some way. So what I started doing nowadays is just planning ahead of time and sit down to the safety guys and ask them, what do you want from your project? What do you want us to do to make sure we're following the right rules and everything? So now it's just really building on communication with them now, and I think that is the best way for us to start doing it now. So that's how it went for me.
Thank you. Absolutely. So I want to ask a real question, and Lee, I'll ask you first, okay? And you can tell me no, there was really nothing, or you can share a story or however. But Chris talks about the past. You guys talk about the past, how it used to be, where it's gotten to now. Let me ask you this: was there an event? Was there a thought? Was there an idea that maybe changed your mindset from being more of an operation-minded superintendent or leader in the field versus safety-conscious is what the term I'm going to use, right? Safety-minded. Was there an event? Did you see something happen and a thought?
Oh yeah, there's probably about there's three items. So the first one's just age. The older you get, the less likely you are to jump from scaffold to deck. Ride the forks up, walk a plate line. Some of it just comes with age, because hurting hurts a whole lot more. So that's part of that. No, I actually had to, safety for me became a penance. I was not a safe superintendent or project manager, or project engineer, assistant superintendent. Safety was not my thing. I was the guy that when the safety professional came out and said, you can't do that, I would inform him that there's a difference between can't and shouldn't. And because I've never seen a safety guy on the job site on a Saturday or Sunday, it'll be done on Monday, don't worry about it. So, no, I was very risky about things. So, one day they just said, okay, guess what? You're gonna go be the safety guy now. You're not gonna follow it, you're gonna enforce it. So, getting into this world for a little bit and seeing it and being on the other side, it started making sense. Okay, well that makes sense. I'm not losing time. Losing money, put the dollars and the cents to it, made a lot more sense, especially being a project manager. So when your burn rate is, $15,000 a day and you shut down for 2 days because of an accident, you don't want to lose that money. So, one is age, two is being exposed to safety on y'all side. And the third part was just, moral clarification. A really good knock on the head. I was driving a fence post at my mom and dad's house, helping dad put up a fence. And with T-post driver and missed and hit my shoulder. And I thought, man, that would suck if I would have hit my head. And I looked over at my truck, and I've got a hard hat in the truck. Construction, right? I've got a hard hat in the truck, and I look, now let's keep going. And, semi-concussion, 8 staples later down the center of my head, I thought to myself, you know what, maybe I should put my hard hat on. As crazy as it would look, wearing a hard hat at the house, maybe I should put my hard hat on. And little things like that, putting your teenage son in the bucket of the tractor at the house so that he can run electrical through the barn, stuff like that. You're sitting there going, why am I doing this at the house? And I would never do this at work, especially with family. I mean, I wouldn't put a carpenter or a foreman or somebody in a tractor, and I'm going to throw my son up there. I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's a hypocritical or duplicity here that I need to work on. So that's kind of what changed my life in safety.
We're done. thank you, thank you. Aaron, I want to give you, to add anything, would you add anything, or would you share an experience of your own, if what changed your mindset?
Well, it's kind of like what Lee was saying, that you look back and one of the things that I look back on is like, if I was to go back and think about everything that I did wrong, I look back and go, I'm pretty damn lucky to be here. And I think everybody in this room has probably had that same thought at some point in time in their careers. But then you start running your own work, and now you've got your own men out there working, your responsibilities change, and you think, if I don't do something to change what I did in the past and make myself better, then I'm exposing everybody that's on this job to that same mentality. And so then you become more cognizant of your safety, you're more aware of what your guys are doing. One of the things that I've always taught myself is I don't worry about production at first when I go walk a job. Is everybody safe and in the right positions? That's one of the first things I do. That comes with age, like Lee was saying, it comes with experience, but it also comes with all the close calls we've all had. So.
No, thank you. Thank you. I do want to ask, I know Chris shared a story earlier, probably what should have changed his mind. I'm sure there's others, but Pete, I want to give you the opportunity. I think this is a really good question of, was there an event that happened or a thought or an idea around maybe what shifted your mindset a little?
Yeah. I got a buddy of mine that I've been working for years, and we worked in Cupertino, California together doing the Apple's headquarters. He sent me a picture and it's on the video. And man, this dude is good. So I seen the whole video, and he's sitting there standing in unitized frames and everything, and that's just the video. He's not tied off. He's 20 feet in the air. So I called him up and said, say something. I said, you were my apprentice. I said, when we did Exxon together, you always had your stuff right. There was a rule, making sure everybody was tied off. If somebody ever got in trouble, everybody had a harness on to help the next guy. So I told him, hey, you know what, man? You know, you got a son. Do you think about that if you fall down, what's going to affect everybody? You know, not just your job, but it's going to affect your son. And right there and there, it made me turn and say, hey, you know what? It's time to start teaching these guys. You know, it's important. It affects everybody. Your safety, what you do. And that's how I see it now. That's what made me turn around and start building my guys to learn everything they need to learn on safety-wise. It's not no more. It's the guys coming in to try to get rid of us. It's not that anymore. It's about where can we build them to where they need to be at to make sure everybody goes home safe. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. Thank you. One of my last questions, and I want to give everybody a little time to talk about it, but Chris, I'll start with you. Pick on you a little bit, okay? We have a lot of safety professionals in this room, some with a lot of experience, almost getting ready to retire. We have some that are just now starting their careers. As field operations leaders, what piece of advice would you give to a safety professional that's here today to maybe build on a relationship, or maybe build on having a connection and getting the job done like it needs to?
I'll pick on Matt Clark a little bit again. I would say that Matt and I did not get along real well when we first were running into each other. Some of that, I think, goes back. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's probably like the grief thing, it's with superintendents, it's anger, fear, and then acceptance when it comes to safety, right? If it's impacting what you're trying to get done. And Matt's really great about getting out, walking the job site, and he'll flag stuff out to you right away. And so what I learned was, you know what? The guy's pretty sharp. I need to walk with him, weigh what he's telling me, and then because a lot of the time, and that goes for all of you, you're calling something out because it needs to be addressed. You have to figure out a way to address it. So when you're out there there doing your thing, right? I always like to say it's best, I like it best when you go up and you approach people and we take as friendly a tone as possible, and you're trying to help in a situation. Because a lot of times it's like my way or the highway kind of stuff, or I have to rate you up or all that kind of stuff. So I'm saying, it's the whole building relationships thing. When you have these job sites, you have all these people out there, they don't know you. Especially for you guys, you have to build those relationships first. So probably whipping out your pad and writing somebody up and throwing them off the job site, not the best, So I would say that would be my advice, right? Use the friendly approach, but always do your job. And that's what guys like us, we're up here for, right? To make sure that it does get done.
Aaron, I want to shift over to you. What piece of advice would you give to a safety professional that's here today?
It's kind of funny. I was listening to Chris talk, and I was like, man, he's kind of taking my whole thunder away from me. But, go make a difference. Go influence people. As superintendents, operation guys, we can be intimidating, and our employees don't necessarily want to hear from us because they think that we're going to hammer them, not from a safety side, but we're going to hammer them over, you didn't do this right, you got to rip it down, you got to redo it, you did this wrong. You guys are out there and you're ingrained with them, you're talking about family, make a difference. Don't just send them home, like he was saying, send them home because they don't have their gloves on, or send them to the trailer because they don't have glasses on, or if you have, I always tell my guys, if you see something that's out there that's not right, stop what you're doing, take the time and teach them why, and teach them what is right. Because if you don't teach them, they'll never know. And then so what they do on your job, they're going to continue to do somewhere else. So my suggestion is make a difference.
Thank you, Aaron. Pete, do you want to give you an opportunity here? Piece of advice you would give to a safety pro that's here today?
I have to go with Chris, and Chris said, my best advice is build a relationship and training and teaching you guys. I'll give you an example. My daughter came to me one time and asked me if she brought my chops on. So I asked my daughter, I was like, hey, go and write me a JSA. She's like, what do you mean, Dad? So I'm like, I need you to tell me what you're going to do, what is your hazards, and how you're going to fix it. She's like, why do you do that? I said, well, because we all come home. That's why we do that on the job site. That's how I get my guys to come back. She goes, okay. So I didn't think she was going to do it. She come back an hour later. She goes, here you go. I was like, well, what is this? She goes, well, it's my JSA. She wrote down everything from using the saw to what she was going to do, how she was going to fix it, what she was going to do with the nail gun, how she was going to build a raised bed garden, and everything after that. So the best advice I could give everybody once is teach them. We're going away from teaching everybody what they need to do to be safe. So I would think that would be the best thing to do, because me teaching her what a JSA was, she knows now that's what Dad and my crew does for us to come home safe. So, the best advice I would give is just train them, teach them what they need to do.
Does your daughter need a job? Lee, I want to let you close the question out. I know. Last one here, a lot of good answers. Want to give you just a little bit of time to answer.
My answer is not so existential at all. Mainly going for where's the OSU guys looking for work that y'all where they at. All right. So here's what I would give. It's not rocket science. It's not. Make a difference. Do everything. Know the product. Know what they're building before you set foot on the job. Don't just come to the job and show up. Hey, my name's Lee. How you doing? Introduce you. Hey, Chris. How you doing? Not bad. You're superintendent. Yeah. And so what are you building? And you go out in the truck. You go out in the buggy. You start walking John. Like, what are you building? What's this? What's that? What's that? You're answering more questions and looking around than you are doing safety. So know the product, know the job site, go to estimating, look on the server, look on the plan log, whatever, get a layout of the job so you know when you get there what areas you're looking at. Just know the job, know the product. Is it a tilt wall? Is it a cast in place? Is it sticks and bricks? Just know the product so that when you get there, you're not asking so many questions and the superintendent, project manager, project engineer, foreman, whoever you get stuck with to walk you around, because that's what we do, give them somebody else to walk around. You at least know what you're looking at when you get there. And that's what I would say. It's going to give you a little bit more credibility. It's going to say, okay, this guy comes prepared. He's not just coming out to write tickets and enforce. He actually is involved in what we're doing and how we're going to do it. So know the product, know the space.
Awesome, thank you. I do want to say, I know we have a little bit of time. Those were my written down questions in a nice way. Not me. Is there any more? Does anybody out in the audience want to ask a live question for these folks? Scott Sears, raise his hand first. Scott Sears.
I'd like to know from this group, when we're training employees to come to your job site, you've not seen them before. You can't answer this both. It's got to be one or the other. Do we need to be training on OSHA rules and regulations, safety regulations, or safety mindset? Which is it and why?
I'll speak on that one because it's Scott Sears. It's mindset. We can teach rules. When they're coming up through the trade, we can run through video after video after video. We can set them in rooms and we can teach them the rules. If they don't have the right mindset, they're not going to be safe on the job. And if we're not teaching, if you want to teach culture. Don't teach OSHA rules. Culture will drive the mindset. Mindset drives the culture.
Anybody else? No. One more. Want to give another opportunity? One more. Yeah, Raul Ruiz.
So as operations personnel, it might be a phase, it might be something different. What keeps you up at night when you're in the state?
Sounds like a good question.
I'll tell you right now, what keeps me up at night, safety, what bothers me on safety is time. And it's time, and that relates to money. So, yeah, I'm trying to see who's here. So, so let's go with scaffolding. And on a job that I'm on right now, a loss of 3 days installing scaffolding to get up to a third floor clear story just to wash the windows, right? And people go, okay, well you call in scaffolding, you get the scaffolding put up, and okay, well that's 2 days, and then I want to get cleaners on it. Okay, well I don't have somebody to inspect that scaffolding, so I got to get somebody in there and inspect it. So who's going to inspect it for a day's worth of work? And then I got to tear it all down, and then I got to fix the floor, and I got to wax the floor, and I can clean the floor. So to clean glass in a third floor clear story is a 2-week process to be safe. Yeah, that's and a bunch of money. I mean, it's a bunch of money, and you're sitting there looking at your budget. Your project manager's going, "Hey, we're running out of money." Superintendent's like, "Well, this is what I got to do." And you're like, "Good God, 3 days." So yeah, it's the time to be safety. I mean, because most of the time we don't put safety. I mean, we don't put weather days in the schedule. Yeah, we get them, but we don't anticipate them. Just like we don't put safety in the schedule. John's gonna be fine. We're gonna run it perfect all the way through. So yeah, it's that time that we spend being safe and how that affects our production schedule.
Awesome. I I want to close. I want to close by saying thank you to our panelists up here. Aaron Henson, Lee Thomas, Chris Arpaia, Pete Lopez. I do want to say thank you guys for coming here. We did not have to utilize the emergency action plan being running out that door, so we're good there. But I do want to say thank you to our panelists. Let's give them a big round. Thank you.